The online safety bill going through Parliament, which she says holds the promise of finally regulating pornography sites. I'm joined now by the porn creator Countess Diamond, head teacher Darren Gelder, and by Dame Jenny Murray, who this week called for pornography to be banned and subject to long prison sentences. Good evening to you all. Jenny Murray, first of all, it's one thing talking about children accessing sometimes violent porn, but it's another to say that adults, consenting adults, shouldn't be allowed to watch any porn, or porn should not be made, and it will be punishable by a prison sentence.
Well, my concern has always been for the violation of women. I supported Women Against Pornography in the 70s and 80s when we would have liked to get it banned then. My concern now is for women and very much for children. And I would call for a ban, because you don't have to go to a smutty old cinema to see horrible things anymore. One click on your phone and there it is. And I know how horrible it is because, purely for research purposes, I've had a look. But in the 70s and 80s, we were told, we were talking censorship, we were trying to end free speech. This is not about speech. This is pictorial evidence of the abuse of women. And look at the amount of abuse of women that we have in society. Please don't tell me that watching this kind of pornography does not have an effect. And what do you say?
We'll come back to it.
Just one thing. The Children's Commissioner said that a 12-year-old girl had told her that her boyfriend kissed her for the first time and strangled her because he thought it was normal.
So, and I would say that and I'm sure you'll be saying as well, there's many different kinds of porn, but let me just put that to you, Darren Gelder. Do you think an outright ban on pornography is in any way feasible in the 21st century?
I think we're talking about a £12 billion industry, and to try and control that and to ban it all is not something I think that's going to happen. I mean, certainly support what's been saying in relation to keeping children safe. And I think the bit that we have here is this access question about it. It says in the report here, parents in particular have been shocked. And part of it is this realization of why they're shocked. There's only two things that can happen here. One is how they access porn, and that's through a device of some form. And I think what we're seeing now is many, many young people with smartphones, 7, 8, even 5 and 6-year-olds. And I think there's an issue here with regard to the parents and carers side of it, of actually understanding what that phone can allow a young person to access. And that isn't in any way taking away or validating what's in there. And we spend a lot of time at school working with students about what's normal and what's healthy and what's unhealthy. There's also the other side of it, of the actual where they're accessing this from. We talked about Twitter there. We know about Google, we know about Snapchat, TikTok, etc. And, again, there's a role to play here.
So that's the online safety bill, which is what Rachel D'Souza is saying now. We've got a chance to do something about the platforms. But just on the question of the whole idea of what children are watching. Now, what the Children's Commissioner says is a lot of it is violent and degrading, but that is not the totality of porn. And I wonder, Darren Gelder, if you see that there is any problem with girls and boys, teenagers, seeing respectful sex online. Isn't that part of education? Because what is called porn runs across a whole gamut.
It is indeed, but what we're talking about here is age-related and information that is given. I mean, there's a very thorough program that we run within the school about understanding what's healthy and what's unhealthy, what's normal. And I think what we're looking at here is about how sometimes the things that we're seeing online have been normalised. And I think this is one of the bigger issues that we sit around here, particularly with regard to young people, of what they're perceiving is normal. Again, stopping them from seeing it, incredibly difficult, but it's about fantasy and reality as well within that.
Well, Countess Diamond, you're a dominatrix, and I wonder, do you think about children seeing it when you are working? Is that something that actually crosses your radar?
No, it's not something that crosses my radar because the content creation that myself and my other union members create is not intended for an immature or unaware audience. And we work really hard within the union to protect the people who create that work, so they're creating work that is ethical and cared for, considerate, healthy, and fantastic art. We are creating fantastic art, and I completely understand that we do need to protect children and young adults online. And I think with the introduction of the European Council approved Digital Services Act and the Online Harms Bill, I think there's a lot of work that we can do to bring a lot more experienced voices into the discussion around legislation.
But as we know, children find ways to see lots of different things, and it is 42% on Twitter. So I wonder if you feel any degree of responsibility to make sure that the bio, make sure that it shouldn't be accessed by under 18s or whatever. I mean, where does that happen? Where does that kind of...
Absolutely. When you create content, it cannot be made accessible to an audience that isn't aware of what they're viewing. So we do put lots of parameters in place. We don't show content that is too explicit or would harm if someone saw it. So there are measures that are put in place. But it's actually quite an unregulated industry, and the union, the USW Sex Workers Union, which I would encourage any online sex worker to join, we work to try and get this regulation and create processes so that the people who create the work and also who feature in the work are protected.
But do you say, I mean, you work within your union, but do you put hand in heart and say that there are people that exploit what young people are likely to see, who also put degrading stuff on that young kids can see? They don't all have what you're saying are your limits.
I mean, I can't speak for anyone that isn't me. I mean, I know that the people I work with work to really high standards. I mean, I'm sure there are people in the world who are up to many nefarious things in lots of different industries, not just the online porn and sex work industry.
So, Jenny Murray, you've heard what Countess Diamond had to say, that Countess Diamond seems to be entirely in charge of her own destiny. You say that you've only ever seen women being degraded and women being exploited. But do you accept that there are people that do not agree with you, that there are sex workers that choose to be in that industry?
I'm sure there are, and good luck to them. Just let's not have it all over the internet where children can get access. I'm interested to know how the Countess ensures, if she's showing her material, her so-called art, that young people don't watch it. How do you ensure that?
Good question. So the payment providers that support the platforms that I and many other creators work on have very stringent rules and regulations to be able to process those payments. There would be large fines to those payment platforms for supporting an industry that was harming people. So there are age verification gates. Now, it's nothing in the way that the European Council approved Digital Services Act was trying to implement with the age verification where you have to enter your ID. There was a lot of surveillance issues with that. So it's not that stringent, but we do as much as we can to protect
Let me just put that to Darren Gilder.
As a mum as well, I'm also a mum, Jenny, so I have to make sure that my children understand and are educated in the right way, and I really believe what Darren is doing as a head teacher is brilliant.
Just Darren Gilder, very briefly, what do you want the online bill to make sure happens to accessing content, for example, on Twitter?
I think it is that bit there we say about accessing it. And actually, we've got some big companies. There's a lot of money involved within this. And I think really making it incredibly difficult, and those age checks and those barriers to stopping young people being able to access that to stuff that can be harmful. So we need to put it off at that point. I also think there's a wider part, as I say, with regard to parents and carers, of actually understanding how young people are accessing this and taking a role and responsibility within that as well.
Thank you all very much indeed. Just looking now at the front pages, beginning with the Times, who broke the story of the prepayment meters, British Gas ban from force-fitting new